Díomh agus céad fáilte go FleadhFest fiche héin ó Kilkenny. Missionórin, Cathaoirleach Goresbridge. Very warm welcome to FleadhFest 2021 from Kilkenny. I'm Noreen, chairperson of Goresbridge, the Marble City branch of Comhaltas. We're based here in the lovely medieval city of Kilkenny, but our membership is drawn from Kilkenny city and county. When we formed our branch back in 1987, primarily we were a set dancing group with just a few musicians. Jimmy Culleton organised the dancing classes at the time, and it was through his encouragement really that we got the branch started. Now through our classes we've grown the branch from there, and while dancing still plays a major part in our activities, we have a huge number of musicians as well. At the time when we started the branch here, Kilkenny was making preparations to host Fleadh Cheoil for the third time. So it was a great time to be getting involved in Comhaltas. And of course, back in the 80s as well, a Kilkenny man, Jim McCauley, had just been national president of Comhaltas. Like many branches, I suppose, our classes and in music and dancing, which run from September to May, our monthly sessions and our meetings keep us busy. But we also create activities around Seachtain na Gaeilge, St. Patrick's Day, Crinnean and Oak, Heritage Week, Culture Night. Over the years, our young people have been involved in Clerica and Scoraíocht as well with some success. And our Tinall Tommy Carney piping weekend for tuition for Uilleann Pipers was a big part of our activities. We're very fortunate here in Kilkenny to have some beautiful historic buildings in which our entertainment group can perform. So during the summer season, we provide summer entertainment shows for the visitors. Some of this is done in conjunction with the Seoil Music Trail, which we've had an involvement in since the 1980s. Kilkenny, translated from the Irish Kilkenny, meaning cell or church of Cannig. So we've had a long association here with St. Canice, and we're so delighted to be able to record this piece for FleadhFest from this beautiful building that is St. Canice's Church, St. Canice's Cathedral now, and Round Tower, built in honour of St. Canice. We've also had great enjoyment travelling with our junior and senior entertainment groups to many parts of the world, and we've made some great friends in many places we visited. And we also dropped in on some of our Comhaltas branches in Glasgow and Luxembourg and Liverpool when we were on our travels. Over the years, we've had some great people involved in our committees, never afraid to take on a new challenge and host some great Comhaltas competitions and events. We've certainly enjoyed filming for FleadhFest, and I'm grateful to everybody who has given their time and expertise to make this possible, and indeed all who have allowed us the use of many wonderful iconic buildings such as this, and other locations in which to record. We've enjoyed it. We hope you enjoy it too.
We're in St. Canice's Cathedral, which is one of the bookends of Kilkenny's famous medieval mile, which stretches from here to Kilkenny Castle in the south. Along the way, we'll meet Roath House, which was the Tudor townhouse and indeed the mercantile centre of a remarkably successful businessman, John Roath. He built this house starting in 1592. Beyond that, we will come across St. Mary's Church, which is now the Medieval Mile Museum.
glam, is good day to my morning slon. I'll dye my petticoats, I'll dye them red, and round the world my food I'll beg, until my parents would wish me dead. Is good day to my morning slon. Shul, shul, shul aroon, shul ga saker agus shul ga kiyun, shul ga tares agus elig lam. Is good day to my morning slon. But now my love has gone to France, and all his fortune to advance. If he e'er come back, 'tis but a chance. Is good day to my morning slon. Shul, shul, shul aroon, shul ga saker agus shul ga kiyun, shul ga tares agus elig lam. Is good day to my morning slon. Shul, shul, shul aroon, shul ga saker agus shul ga kiyun, shul ga tares agus elig lam. Is good day to my morning slon. Is good day to my morning slon.
So, from dancing in the Rose Garden of Kilkenny Castle to a song, Kilkenny by the Nore.
Oh, Mother Gra, I am leaving you now. To the wars I am forced to go, to fight for the cause of my country dear, where the pretty green shamrocks grow. 'Tis sorry I am to be leaving you now, but you know I'll return once more when the fighting is done and the the battle is won to Kilkenny by the north. The pale moon shone down on the battlefield where the battles were lost and won. The wild birds flew o'er the wounded heroes who would ne'er see tomorrow's sun. And there in the quiet of a moonlit night, a dying young soldier lay. His comrades stood round as he lay on the ground. These words at length did say, "Tell my mother how bravely I fought and died as a soldier fell. With her picture held close to my bleeding breast, and my life's blood was ebbing away. Tell her 'tis home, never more shall I roam. I shall ne'er see her face anymore, or the home that I left, where in childhood I played, in Kilkenny by the north." Slowly and sadly they laid him to rest in the spot where he fought and fell. No stone nor no mark o'er his cold narrow grave, his deeds are his bravery to tell. 'Tis there quite forgotten he sleeps his last sleep, where the shamrock he fought for of yore, except for the one who is praying for him still in Kilkenny by the north. Except for the one who is praying for him still in Kilkenny by the north.
Dear you, táthas an club Rialtas Dúchas Kilkenny Cork Oxbow. I'm Doreen O'Byrne, President of the Kilkenny Home Rule Club, and it was founded in July 1894, 127 years ago, the only remaining Home Rule Club in Ireland. At the time it was founded to promote the interests of the businessmen of the city, as is very clear from our archives. And that was the community they supported at that time. And now we continue to support communities in Kilkenny, a more diverse city, it has to be said. One of the clubs that we're so happy to welcome here on a regular basis is the Comhaltas Units.
Charles, or Cha, as your friends call you, this is a fantastic book, and there's obviously a great deal of labour gone into it, but it must have been a labour of love. How did you get involved in music at the age of 55?
Well, I had a very active life as a national teacher. I was very involved in after-school activities with children and so on. But I I decided that when I retired, the best thing for me to do was to get into music, because there was music history in the family.
Yes,
And
sir.
I had never taken up an instrument, so I asked a friend of mine what was the most difficult instrument to play, and he said, the violin. So I decided I'd take up the fiddle. And as a result, I became very interested, and I decided to do a collection of Kilkenny tunes that were specifically Kilkenny.
Okay.
And while I was doing that, I decided to write some tunes. And having played some of them to my friends, they thought they were very nice. So, between one thing and another, Fleadh Cheoil.
Yeah.
I was telling how Ron
But
Belair.
It's a book which has brought together a great deal of stories and of songs and of music, but chiefly it's available for people who like to dance, and that isn't that the primary purpose?
Well, the original purpose of all music was to accompany dancers.
Of course.
And it contains jigs, reels, hornpipes, basically, and of course some polkas. But I think, looking back historically, I gathered that jigs were very, very popular in Kilkenny, and more so than reels. Even though reels are played widely in sessions, jigs were extremely popular. And I remember as a child being sitting on my grandmother's knee and she lilting, mostly jigs to me, and that's where I heard the music first.
Right. It's something that, having got them all together, you're doing a great service in ensuring that not alone your own work, but other traditional music associated with Kilkenny is all brought together in one splendid publication.
That's right. Well, thank you very much. But the idea was to bring together the tradition into one volume. And I had inquired, and even though there were publications made, they were general publications and nothing specific. But being enthused by the whole idea, I had great lessons from Comhaltas in Kilkenny as well.
Of course, yeah.
And I went from a very basic beginner to a reasonably good player, I would hope.
You're being very modest here now. But, you know, the book itself stands on its own feet as a very fine, creditable compendium of what's available in traditional music in Kilkenny.
Yeah, thank you very much. I used a lot of place names, as is the tradition, to name tunes.
Yeah.
And they all have a heritage as well. And it can help giving the name of a tune, giving a place name to a tune actually makes it very interesting for the people from that area.
Of course.
And hopefully that would enthuse people to take up playing and listening to the music.
It is. Well, time is pressing, but I do want to just conclude by congratulating you for that body of work you've done, and to wish the Floating Feather every success.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much, and I appreciate your kind words.
We're standing in McDonagh Junction, a part of Kilkenny that's been radically redeveloped in the last number of years. But even that radical overhaul couldn't completely eradicate the terrible history that's linked to this location. That is because it was the location for one of 5 county poorhouses built in at the time just before the famine. This one opened in 1841, in the sense that it received its first inmates in that year. That person was to be followed by many hundreds between then and as the famine petered out in 1853. Years later, we discovered that a huge number of people died here. In the circumstances, we can only speculate what they were, but we can say with a fair degree of certainty that they were the victims of abject poverty, hunger, and neglect. We didn't realise until quite recently what had happened to their remains. But we now know that a substantial proportion of the 9.5 acres that this site embraces was used as a cemetery. And there they were buried were left without use of coffins or covering, and just bungled in as best they could. That was the fate of many people here, and that fate was replicated in Callan, in Castlecomer, and in 3 other locations around the county. It is certainly the darkest chapter of Ireland's multicoloured history. And now we leave Kilkenny, Ireland's medieval capital, and we go to the countryside surrounding this extraordinary city. And our first port of call is in Callan, a small rural town in Kilkenny's countryside. It is the birthplace of 3 remarkable people and movements. First, Edmund Ignatius Rice, who was the founder of the Christian Brothers movement, which brought education to a vast number of young Irish boys in the middle of the 19th century. It is also the birthplace of James Hoban. James Hoban was a brilliant architect, and he was the designer and the architect of the White House in Washington. The third person is less well known, but he is perhaps the most international of the figures, because he was Asa Chandler, who was the founder, who was the deviser of the chemical formula which gave rise to what we know today as Coca-Cola. So we leave Callan, a historic town, and we head towards historic Gordon, which is an early medieval town. And our reason for going there is that it's a very pleasant place to witness the Kilkenny races, a very fine dance, which we'll enjoy in a moment. And also the link with Gordon is that it is today a centre of the racing world. With that, we conclude our first section of this video, and we hope you enjoyed it, and equally that you will come with us for the second part, which starts shortly.